Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Fire. I don't know. Anyway, today we're making a creme brulee, but not a traditional creme brulee. Well, I'm going to show how to make a traditional one, but in this video I want to upgrade it. I want to experiment with just taking it onto another level, because I just had a thought last week when I was just sitting in my room just kind of playing around with this, and you know, like, how could I completely perfect a creme brulee but then also make it a cube as well, because you know, like, a cube it would be just awesome just to see it as a cube. So let's get started. So to start things off, we want to make the creme brulee in the most traditional way. So first we want to separate 3 egg yolks, and you want to put that into a bowl with 25 grams of sugar. And then you just want to whisk it up until it's a nice kind of paste, or a nice kind of consistency, almost like just mixing in the sugar. And then the next step, you want to just get 300 grams of cream, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and just a pinch of salt as well. And you just want to heat that up until it's just below simmering. You don't want it to boil because it might just split and it just might get a bit messy, so you don't want that. And then when it's up to heat, pretty much when you start seeing a bit of steam, you just turn off the heat, and then you want to just temper your eggs slowly by pouring it in fifths. Well, I like doing it in fifths and just pouring it a little bit at a time, and while whisking the eggs at the same time, just so the eggs don't scramble, because you don't want that. You don't want a lumpy mess. And in the off chance of it actually lumping up, you know, just inconsistently cooking up the eggs, you just want to get a strainer and just kind of strain out that mixture just to get a smooth texture out of it. And then what you want to do is you want to fill up those ramekins up until there's the line, or however much you want it. And then you want to just pour boiling water into the pan until it reaches about halfway up to the ramekin. And then you just want to put it into a preheated oven at 150 degrees for about, say, 30 to 35 minutes. And then 35 minutes later, you're gonna get something like this. It's kind of runny, it's kind of jiggly, but once it sets, it's gonna have a nice kind of soft texture to it. So then you want to just leave it for an hour to rest, and then you want to put it into the fridge for about 3 to 4 hours, depending on how much you make and how big the ramekins are as well. And then 4 hours later, of course, you want to get some sugar, top it off onto the top, and then just blowtorch it until it is nicely burnt, because it is creme brulee and it's just burnt sugar with a bit of like cream. And then after that's burnt, you want to leave it for a few minutes just so it can cool down, because you don't want to eat hot as sugar, because that will just burn your tongue. And this is just my live reaction, and you know, like, it's pretty good. So now, for this step, I wanted to make the creme brulee as a cube. So then I thought to just get these foil trays, kind of just flatten them, because we want some nice flat, you know, a nice flat surface. And then just get something straight to just flatten it out, and then cut it out cubes. So I wanted a 8x8x8, only because that I feel like that is an appropriate size for the creme brulee. And then just to make the creme brulee again, and because we are making something that is quite big, we're gonna be needing at least 500 grams of cream, which I calculated out it turned out to be roughly 512 mils, which is like almost half a liter of cream. So now we're just doubling up the recipe that I used before. So we're gonna need 6 egg yolks, 600 mils of thickened cream, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, pinch of salt, and 50 grams of sugar. And it's the same process as before. And now, as we have our mold, we want to just pour in our cream mixture until it just reaches the top, or as much as you have, and you want it to fill up to the top. And now, as before, I did actually fill up the water halfway up the ramekin, but in this case I felt like it was going to ruin the cream, because I was scared of it actually leaking. And once it actually reached the base of the cube, it did start to leak a little bit, and I feel like it's because of the boiling hot water kind of just thinning out the cream, and it just came out, which is okay, because I thought that it might just kind of set at the bottom earlier because of all the heat that was already on the bottom. So it was fine. And then again, I put it into the oven at 150 degrees for about 40 minutes. I just left it on a bit longer, and I actually realized that I accidentally put it on grill, so that's why the top was a bit burnt. And it did leak out quite a bit more, but majority of it actually stayed in, which is a good thing. Like, I'm pretty happy with that. So the next day I took it out. It was nicely set, nicely cold. It kind of looked pretty nice. I mean, it deflated a little bit in the center. So as we do, we're gonna put in the sugar onto the top, and then just make it even, and then just brulee it like normal. And then I wanted to just cut it open and see what the sides look at. And the strangest thing happened, that it actually stayed on, in the form, and it just stayed like that as I opened it up. So then I continued to brulee the sides, but then there was one thing that I completely forgot, is that heat would melt the cream. And then this happened. Yep. It was a huge mess. And you know, like, I kind of thought that it would work, but I guess it didn't. So nope, it did not work. And so I kind of left it for a few hours just to think about what could be my next step. And then I just thought of making a kind of like sugar syrup glass. So then I put together 50 grams of sugar, 20 mils of water, and 27 grams of corn syrup. And you want to get that sugar to about 150 degrees. It's gonna evaporate all the water, and then it can start to crystallize and kind of form together to make the glass. And so what I did is I made 2 more cubes, one an 8x8 and one a 7x7, just so I can get a ½ centimeter kind of square. So I kind of poured in the sugar, and then realized that I had to be really fast, and just pouring it into the, it was just it was just a big mess. Like, it just didn't really work as well as I thought it would. Like, I was pretty confident with this. But one thing that I discovered is that if you actually torch it up, you can just just join the sugar together. Developments, and it, you know, like, it's working. It's kind of coming all together, which is a pretty good thing, because that's what we want. And then I actually took out the sugar from what I had on the inside, and then it just looked like this. I mean, it was a little bit thicker than what I actually wanted it to be, but it worked out, and it had a nice kind of snap to it too, like it should. I mean, it was thicker than a creme brulee, the traditional creme brulee sugar, but that's fine. I mean, if I can control the thickness of it, and then if I can join everything together, it should work. So what I did again, I got the foil tray, I cut it out into 8x8 squares with a little bit of a lip, or a bit of a side, just so I can kind of measure out, or when I pour it, there's going to be walls to it. Almost like a mini foil tray. And then what I can do is just make the sugar syrup again, and then pour it in. And then I was trying to work out the volume of it, and because I did it at 2 mils in height, it will be roughly, it actually turned out to be about 25 grams per wall. So I cut it out, I put a bit of coconut oil onto it, and then poured out the hot syrup onto each tray, just to see if it was going to work. And I didn't actually realize that, like, it completely skipped my mind that the sugar would almost immediately set because of the temperature difference. The sugar was quite hot. As I poured on the sugar, it pretty much set straight away, and I feel like I should have heated it up a little bit just to help it kind of move around. So I actually decided to put it into the oven at around 100 degrees, just so I can remelt it, and put it in there for about 2-3 minutes, just so it can get up to temperature, and then just maneuver it so then I can get a perfect square. And that's what I did. It turns out I didn't have enough sugar, so I did make up some more in a smaller kind of saucepan, and I did take it a bit further than before. I mean, it was a bit more burnt, but I mean, that's the aesthetic we're going for anyway, and it is burnt sugar, so that's what I'm doing. And because it's uneven and the temperatures were off again, you know, I just put it back into the oven just to let it set. It came out looking like this. And one of them actually was a perfect kind of square already. So I took it out just before just putting it in the oven, because it wasn't necessary to kind of heat it up again. And, you know, like a few years ago, I did a glass blowing class where they demonstrated how to get the air bubbles out of the glass. And all they did was they used a blowtorch just to heat it up and get the air bubbles to come out. So I thought that it would be the exact same concept concept. Just torching it up would just release the air bubbles and therefore increasing its strength, and it won't crack as much. And you know, I left it for an hour just to cool down, just to make sure it's, you know, as cold as possible, just so I can actually take it out of the molds. And they look pretty good. I mean, the colors came out really nice. It kind of had this kind of glass to amber, you know, this clear to kind of amber color, and like it looked amazing to me. Like it kind of looks like those Coke bottles. You know, like you got the clear to the Coke kind of bottles. So to put the box together, I didn't have any bright ideas to put it together, but just thinking to just weld it as you would do, and then just get a blowtorch and just slowly heating it up at a time, and then just attaching it and letting it dry. And then after an hour of trying to make the cube, I finally did it. See, because I can't actually put this back into the oven, I thought of making a no-bake creme brulee. Like, I was thinking of also making a panna cotta and setting it with gelatin, but then it won't actually have that kind of creme brulee kind of concept. Like it would just be a panna cotta in a sugar cube, and that's not what we're trying to do here. And so I actually used the same kind of the same recipe as I had before, but just changing it up just so it can set not in the oven. So what I did was I got 4 egg yolks, and then I whisked it up in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch or corn flour, just to help it set up when we heat it up. With the cream mixture, I used 300 grams of cream and then 200 grams or mils of milk. And sometimes the cream it's not actually 300, so you want at least 550 grams of the cream, just so we can fill up this cube, because that's how much cream we need. And then we also added vanilla paste or vanilla extract and a bit of salt as well. And then once again, same process as before. You just want to temper the eggs just slowly, just so it can slowly cook the eggs and turn it into a cream custard. And then once that's all mixed up, you want to just put it back into your saucepan and then just heat it up for another, say, 4 minutes, just on medium heat, just so it can start to thicken up a bit. And after about 4 minutes, it's going to start looking like a nice thick custard. As I forgot to strain that before, you know, I'm just going to do it now. So then I'm just putting it through and then just pressing it as well, just so I can get it through. I actually took it about 10 seconds too far. It started to split, so it's kind of crappy, but it started to split, which I was pretty upset about. But then I just got a whisk and tried to save it, and then as it cooled down, it kind of mixed in the fat into the milk again, which was good because it didn't actually ruin it, and I was actually lucky that it didn't ruin it. And then I left the cream to cool for an hour. I put it back into the fridge for about 3 hours just to let it cool down, and then I moved it into a piping bag just so I can just pipe it into the cube a lot easier. And I actually didn't have enough cream, which kind of sucked, but that's fine. Like, you know, like at this point, I'm just gonna make do with the concept, and you know, I mean, it worked. I mean, putting the cream into the sugar cube, it worked. And I did leave it overnight, and this is where I lost some footage, which kind of sucks because it was actually a learning point for me, that when I put it into the fridge, I just completely forgot about the moisture in the air and just its surroundings, and just not moving it around. Also, the cream obviously has moisture in it as well, so it's going to melt the sugar. It's going to combine. Like it almost turns out to like almost a honey kind of texture, a nice syrupy texture. And yeah, it just wasn't good. And then I had it in my hands like so, and then it was just dripping. Because I left it overnight, and I did promise myself that was the last time I was going to make it. But because I have nothing to show, I had to make it again. But this time, with no issues. So I made it again, made the cube again, each one with perfectly 25 grams of sugar melted into perfect squares, which I am completely happy about. It looks even better than before. It has a nice burnt kind of color to it, and it's awesome. And with the cream that I used, I actually did the baked version of it, because the cream that I used with the corn flour, it just didn't taste as good. Like, it was just a bit kind of grainy, and when I did eat it, I mean, the flavors were all there, it's just grainy. So for this cream again, I actually went back to the oven version of it, and then just before it's set, I moved it into a measuring cup and just letting it sit in the fridge just for 4 hours, and it turned out so much better. Like the cream actually tasted so much better. So then as I put it into the piping bag, piping it up and praying for my life that it was gonna work, because this was actually gonna be my last time. And I know I've said it so many times in this last week, because I was actually so close to giving up and thinking that this was almost an impossible mission. And I was a man on a mission, and so like I just had to do it. I mean, I got nothing else to do anyway. So I did it. That's one brulee looking cream. That's like a brulee box, a cube, a tesseract of sugar cubes, a father of sugar cubes, the cubist movement of food, the loaf of sugars, the pinnacle of blocks, the absolute top-notch geometry cubist mongers. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it worked. I mean, it leaked out of the bottom, possibly because I didn't seal it properly. Like it might have had a bit of holes in it, and the cream kind of melted a little bit. And now, time to crack it. Even though because it looks so beautiful, I was thinking of just kind of keeping it and not eating it, because like it's just such a shame to even break it, because it just looks incredible. And let's just watch me crack it. Okay, well, oh my good God of mine. What the hell? All that effort for a box of cream. Can't finish it by myself. Whoa! And there you have it, the fully bruleed creme brulee. I still need to come up with a better name for this. Like, you know, like it's just the sugar thing cube. I'm pretty happy with myself. I mean, just to recreate it, it took one day. But just the concept and just trialing and just experimenting, it was quite a journey, and I'm never going to make it again, unless someone asks me to. But we did it, and I am super happy. And now I can rest because it's all done.